Hey, what's up? It's Isaiah Samate Gregoria, and I'm back with another one. I'm on my laptop now because I've been recording so many videos on my iPhone that um, it got the memories getting overflow. So I tried to record my last video, and I had to ended up editing it, and have recorded the last one. So that just left me with, the only option of using my laptop up until I figure out a way how to get more storage on my iPhone. The quality is not that great, but I'm here to work with something. This is the app on the app on Apple, which is the photo booth, which I didn't know could record. But the more you know, no, it's just like a point. But last time I left off with talking with the relationship with Donald Trump and Osama bin Laden and evolution. And at the evolution and etc. and a few couple things that I left off there. So we've been going through this for the past couple of weeks. I usually record once a week. Usually leaving off with like a few conversations about what's been going on and what kind of things I would like to talk about. There was so much to talk about, and I gave you the information. I told you what were the things that I had to say, and what were the things that were going on. And those, in spite of that, have collected the most views that I got in one video, which was when I spoke about schizophrenia, was 145. So hopefully I can get to 200, and maybe I could get more subscribers by then. It's moving fast. Nothing bad, everything's been good, even online. I've been seeing a lot of videos that I would have liked to reference, and I post them on my Instagram and stuff, and get to post them and get to talk to you people and get to connect on a different level than the normal. I know this is kind of new. I don't know what people expected from me. I've always been like with the government since I was a kid. My grandfather was a commanding general of the Dominican Republic. So since a kid, I've known the national anthem, the presidents, every counterpart that had to go with them, with that, and what fulfilled what all this good stuff that was there. So I knew a good quality of stuff when I was a kid, and growing up with my grandpa, what kind of things that he got involved with. And for the most part, it was nothing too dramatized, or nothing that was quick for me to say. So yeah, this been going in the right path. Everything's been I've been studying. I have a couple books. I'll show you the books. I have some books right here. Some books that I've showed you, and what I've been trying to get involved with, and growing the community so that they could trust and fulfill that I do bring new content and stuff that could provide some fun and stuff like that. Hopefully the volume on this is good, because I haven't tried it out yet. But I guess I'll see how the video looks at the end of the cast, and then I'll post it up on YouTube, and hopefully it goes the way I want it to. Now back with whatever I was saying last time. And I did have a few thoughts about the evolution and about the relationship with Donald Trump and Osama bin Laden, and this and the few other stuff that I did mention inside the video, and what went into this, what kind of lessons were we expecting from all this stuff that manifested itself, and what kind of enrollment that I feel like I did mention that I did get to see the ceremony when the soldiers did get the badge to the taking of Osama bin Laden, and what counterparts when my grandfather was here in from Dominican Republic when we saw it. So it was only like a matter of time once we got the news. And I also did mention that Dominican Republic was aligned with the war, and what kind of stuff were we trying to see from that. Since a kid, what kind of taking were we involved with. And we've been trying to take over the United States and win the war and gain back our independence from the white people, from the white people, from Europe, from all these counterparts. We never liked the way it was. And one thing that I was found myself thinking about was, it was hard. It was harder for some groups because we're mixing in tribal groups, and just the way that they see stuff like as a sin or as like some sort of commitment or commit. It's like I can say that I see it like in a way that it was just like this is like terrible to see some kind of like mixing of the DNA and stuff like that in ways that we never, which probably wasn't even a problem, which we at that time probably never even thought about it like that or had the idea. And another thing that I would like to mention was just like some of these things that we're even receiving was different, and it's something that we would like never have imagined it to be, and some of the culture that they're bringing, some of the conversations, and especially with the language, when we're translating these languages, how can we know that these were the same things that we were talking about? It was just, I guess, points of similarities that could get these things across, and for a point in time, we can say that was similar. Not exactly the same, because this can mean like earth rock, in comparison to where it's coming from, and what kind of elements, what kind of dialect are we adding to these, and what accents, and where is it coming from. We can only say that these are similar. But back to what I was saying, in this capturing of groups and stuff like that, where can we understand that what the crimes that have been committed in Europe, and what kind of were they begging for. And I did see a video where they spoke about that, and now they're saying that these are crimes against the against us, against the world. Like, these are crimes against humanity, to even have a idea that this is what they needed. These are certain things that they knew how to overcome, and what ways were they trying to overcome these things. It was very primitive. It was very savage, like they said in the Pocahontas, when they was saying who was the real savage of the war, and what were points in times where we that made exclusive to these points, that made it seem that what we were normal, what was our casual normal. And yes, we want war. We want it to be, we should be at a point right now where we're marching up to Washington D.C. all together and taking down Washington D.C. and taking down the capital of the United States, and taking control of all that stuff. And this brings it back to like the beginning of what we needed to begin with, and certain things that in my understanding could accomplish the goals of what we wanted to begin in bringing that stuff to. That was part of the war that was going on in Florida, which I spoke in an earlier video, which we were coming to a psychic warfare where we're psychically getting involved with people and making decisions, move caution decision in a peaceful manner, not in like a tactical war where it was more of like an understanding that we did have to get these things done, and they were responsible for all these stuff that they did accommodate to. So that was a point that I wanted to make out, that we should be at a point in time where we're marching to Washington, D.C., ready to take over the United States of America, and the declaration of our warfare, and taking over in multiple latitudes and multiple degrees, all these stuff. And I've been inspired by by people who not only been inspired, but this has been in my DNA since the beginning, and that some real hood shit, like on some Brazilian town stuff where the kids are grabbing guns and stuff like that, and we're all just shooting each other, pew 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 pew, grata. That's how we wanted to get down with these people, and taking over our country, taking over our state, taking back our land, taking back everything that we have been through. And we wanted to take that into our understanding and do this thing the right way. We didn't want the stuff that being implemented now and get involved with that thing before. So I'm guessing that now's the perfect time to get involved. I'm also on Twitter posting some of these stuff that and to the degree that we wanted to the degree where we're taking this thing back and taking our home back. And we want to see that and we could bring out the spirituality to it. We could bring that was one main important thing that I wanted to make amends with, and making it sound clear for the people who didn't know, was making that we were prepared to take back our stuff, and we were here to for that. And I'm guessing that's why the reason why they woke me up like that, the way they did, and they had me go through this process and everything like that. It's not something that there's something that that I guess that suited this purpose, and why did they bring that stuff to me. But as we get higher and higher in the spirituality, we're starting to evolve and taking to notice certain things that before wasn't the same thing. And if you repeat these things, and just for a warning for some people, if you repeat these things like on a lower level, it doesn't sound the same, or sometimes it might be taken to degrees where this is not exactly what we had meant. This is what it wasn't set out for. But to the best of our ability, we do have each other to ask questions and know what kind of steps or what kind of things were we going to get involved with prior, or during that time. So what was the caution of good and bad? And when I say good and bad, I don't mean to the effect where it's like claimless or harmless, or like stuff that bring it to a revolt of what was going on, or to a revolution, or something that we are bringing to the point where this is irrational, but to the point where this is more calm and understanding. And when it comes to negative and positive thoughts, what was the idea of good and bad, and how can our union of that perception gather us to a higher dimension and a higher understanding of what we're going through, and and what kind of degrees, what kind of physicality we're using. So when I say bad, I don't mean like, you know, bad to the point where it's blatantly bad. Like, we could understand this blatantly bad, and that's to the point where we could actually deem, or, and if you understand what I mean when we can actually deem something as bad, you know, when it comes to somebody's cross eye, and, you know, understand that this is not good, like, this is unhealthy, this is something that can cause injuries. We're trying to understand this from a universal understanding, from like a point where it does hit the middle of the, like a yin and yang, and understand that it's it does fit our description of what we describe as like another layer of spirituality or dimensions that we do get involved with. So that, with that being said, that was more so one thing that I had in my mind. And how does this work? How does spirituality work? How do you get up the levels that you do need to get up on? Especially coming to the point where we're coming to, where it's like we're in a part of a warfare and people are receiving messages and all that stuff, and people are not doing it, like, nothing about these messages. They're just like internalizing them, probably not even paying attention to them. But, you know, it's to a point where the spirituality is so high, you know, all we could do is make a front or make contact with spirituality that, you know, does adjust to our possibilities, like whether it be technology or form of speech or form of communication that does save the day for what we're trying to understand and what we're trying to overcome, and what kind of evolution was there. And, you know, like I said before in the other video, like, evolution is not something that we would like to understand that gives the answer to everything that's there, but we can only go as time grows, you know. And what kind of you know, in the matrix, what kind of matrix are we even going performing this thing as? So it's like so much things that can go through it. And how does this work? And, you know, especially when I spoke about angel numbers, and, you know, when I said that there's celebrities who are using these numbers, and, you know, these numbers are actually real. Like, you can actually see them on calculator, on our math, you know, and these can be a part of our spirituality, on our basic spirituality. You know, if that's who you are and that's what kind of style you like to use your spirituality as. And I think they're called geonostic. 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 Let me see, geonostic. Okay, but in early Roman, the one was that the numbers serve as a principle of the cosmos, which is, you know, that was like low-key deep, but it's basically saying that the cosmos, the principles of the cosmos, that the numbers serve as the first principles of the cosmos. So what they mean by cosmos is the numbers that we're basically having are serving as like numbers to like the reality that we're in. So if there's a reality, or like the infinity, the beyond, you know, these come back into like what we can say, like they serve as numbers. So they serving as like, you know, whether it's patterns, whether it's you know, repetition, certain forms of spirituality that's coming true. You know, we would like to say like these were the principles of these were like the mandates of the cosmos, of the beyond, of like what's to come, what is the truth to be informed as. The Mahe, represented by a geometric point, was thought to become, or an alternative animate, of dyad, indicating a line meeting of 2 points. Then a triad, a plane figure. In turn, the triad adds to the decade, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 equals 10, a three-dimensional solid. These solids in different arrangement make up 4 elements in good Neapolithogram fashion. The author of S.B. John used numbers to speak the eternities of the upper world. The Father, for instance, is directed called Momad. Nicomachus of Juras, about 60 to 120 CE, reported said that God's coincidentally with the Mod, since he is seemingly eventually with existence. Other neologisms called the Mod pure light, most authoritative over everything in general, sunlight and ruling. They thought of the Moad as an intellect and named it being because of the truth and simple paragraph, order, concord, amongst other things. So these are Geognostics records, and Geognostic records are basically like I'm gonna use like images or dreams or facets of reality that are keep in like a archive, like a library, and you could go and visit and see the records of, you know, gods and numbers. And what I mean by gods and numbers is just basically like the spirituality, the context, the content, the different kinds of things that you're looking for. So if you have an answer, it basically shows you or presents to you these records that are being held in the spirituality. So with that being said, there's a lot. There's basically some of the stuff that I'm talking about, and I wouldn't be surprised if I showed up in numbers, like I did said before, like the number 47, which is the number 11. But at the same time, my cousin pointed out that the Donald Trump is the 47th president too. So with that being said, it was just like the whole thing just hit a bullet point that was can say that did accomplish what some people would describe as like historical or amazed, perfect. And I'm not saying because these numbers are built perfect, but when you put them to the angle, it's like you can kind of mess with it a little. 47, which 4 plus 7 equals 11, which 11 is the master number, which I did say in a previous video. So with that being said, yeah, so we were demanding warfare, and I want you guys to be ready for that stuff, to be ready for what's to come, whether it's warfare, whether it's not, whether it's like some kind of social gathering of what we're demanding of the people. And I wish I had the platform to do it, but at the most I don't have that many followers or subscribers to even promote some of the stuff that I'm getting into about. And you know, as I said, my grandfather was the general commander of the Dominican Republic, so we needed that, my people. We needed that warfare, that engine that did fuel us, did give us that backbone to pick up a gun, pick up a poster, and storm the White House and get in, and no matter what, just storm into the White House and take over our candidacy. And I don't know what's banging on the people that they have more control of us through the media, through the mass media, and through the cameras and stuff like that, that did get us that platform that we couldn't get back into that stuff. So that was one thing that I would like to like promote. Like, yeah, there was a relationship between Donald Trump and me and you know the people who got involved too. But at the same time, it wasn't served as the purpose. It was more they put me in it when I was a kid, and they were saying like we were like versus each other. We weren't like together, and we were like counterparts that did that, you know, that were headed towards something better, headed towards like some warfare, which I had Donald Trump out. Like you can see even the way that the world is now with everything going on, like it's so much different than what it was before. So much more different. And the spiritual warfare that we're in now, you know, indefinitely, you know, it'll come to our grounds, which we did one, you know, whether it was through Muslim regation or through, you know, our African partnership. And I see that a lot, you know, even if they starting to talk about socialism, which, you know, which is a little controversial for me because at the time, you know, I only spoke about democracy and you know, capitalism, which I know they say is like not the best. But at the same time, my grandfather did fight World War II and won the war via democracy. So that was something that I wanted to point out, that I didn't know how to feel about it. And personally, you know, I just don't know what to say or do. And you know, we're going through another election now through the government and stuff like that. So now we're going through different scenery of especially here in Florida, about what was going on and stuff like that. So you guys should definitely get into numerology and what kind of numbers are popping up for you. Do the math. I know that NASA, if I'm not mistaken, NASA has a good database of what numbers are going on. And they did track me at some point. They saw me through it. And in other parts of the mathematical records that are being submitted and stuff like that. So as you can see now, a lot of people are even waking up, and one thing about it was the technology. You know, we should be outside doing stuff and stuff like that rather than. And I'm not saying, you know, to either or really. We should as well be outside doing these things too. And that's what I spent some of the time doing. I didn't have a phone, and all I did was fast and go into like the behavior center, which, you know, which is somewhat like a jail. Like, I don't know if you see any of the other rappers who are like Little Durk go into jail and then they submit themselves through like some sort of religious background, and then they'll stand there for a while and stay in jail. But in my terms, I did stay in the behavior center, and I did spend some time there. So that was most of the part where we're talking about and what kind of things were we headed towards, what kind of things were they're being said and stuff like that, and what things are being said. I usually, the way I study this is usually through various like YouTubes and through books. I read a lot of books. You know, I'm not ahead as like some people are who have read like a ton of books about all this stuff. I've only been here for like 25 years. Some people are like way older than me, so I could only imagine what kind of information some people have. But And prior to that, I was like one of the, like, what Can You See was, I was one of the higher achieving people in the United States. You know, I got a chance to go up against China at some point in mathematics, and I did have a grade of 100 in my mathematics class when I went to high school, which I was leading in one of the boards in China, which was great. It was a good, terrific start for me, and you know, I wish I still had the records to hold that still, but maybe somewhere they're still there. So there's a lot, you know. And how does this work? How are we translating all this? How are we getting two people to agree to the spirituality and what are the counterparts? Some people do it. There's a ton of ways you could do it, and there's a ton of ways, you know, in confirming these stuff. I feel like some people are like a little shy, a little scared to go outside themselves and go out and talk about this stuff, because it's like, you know, this is to a maximum level, you know. And maybe it's the iPhone or something like that, but at the same time, iPhone is given the opportunity, maybe it's the phones, but it has given the opportunity to come out and do stuff that, you know. But at the same time, we would like to imagine that, you know, there is space for people to even do this outside of spirituality, outside of the phones and stuff, and go out and go do something about it, which is more so what we're hoping for. And hopefully this next upcoming year we can do a lot of more stuff and all that stuff, and making it pleasant for other people to now do that stuff. So I'm thinking about ending the video right here for now, since I'm still getting my setup and still getting a couple stuff together. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. You know, it's only been a 30-minute video for now. I usually go out for an hour, but we'll see next week what kind of conversation we'll have. We'll probably go into the conversation about the celebrities a little bit more, and how are they up there and what are they doing up there. So thank you, bye.